I never expected to find a crying stranger at the gas station. Then she changed my life forever. I will never forget that day. The sun hung low, casting a golden hue over everything. I pulled into the gas station, the familiar sounds of the clanking pumps mixed with the distant laughter of children playing. But when I stepped out, everything changed. She was there. A woman kneeled beside a blue sedan, her hair a tangled mess, clinging to her tear-stained cheeks like wet leaves after a storm. Her hands trembled as she buried her face in them. The moment I saw her, my heart squeezed tight. I could feel it pounding against my rib cage, urging me to move, to help. My instincts kicked in. I hesitated for just a moment. Should I approach? I took a step closer. The smell of gasoline hung in the air, sharp and bitter, but it faded as I focused on her. A sudden gust of wind rustled the trees, breaking the heavy silence. I could hear her shaky breaths, each sob cutting through me like glass. "Are you okay?" I asked, my voice shaky. She looked up, her eyes wide and wild, like a deer caught in headlights. The pain in her gaze struck me. It was raw and unfiltered. I knew it. It was the kind of pain that wraps around your chest like a vice. "To lost everything," she whispered, her voice barely a breath. I could see her mascara running down her face like dark rivers. "Everything's gone." The world around me blurred. I wanted to reach out to comfort her, but my hands felt heavy. I could see the faded sticker on the back of her car, a family decal that once meant everything. Now it felt like a relic of happiness that had been swallowed whole by despair. "I'm so sorry," I managed to reply, my heart aching at the sight of her crumbling. Suddenly, a loud honk startled us. A truck revved its engine, anger filling the air. The driver shot a disapproving glance our way, whispering something to his companion. I swallowed hard, feeling the eyes of strangers on us, judging. Why couldn't they understand? "Can I help you?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. There was something about her that felt like a puzzle I needed to solve. She shook her head violently, the tears falling faster now. "You don't want to get involved. Trust me." But that voice inside me screamed otherwise. I felt a spark of hope deep within. I knew I couldn't just leave her. I could be her lifeline, her anchor. What had caused her to be in this position? The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the pavement. Dark clouds began to tumble in, seeming to mirror the turmoil in her heart. I could see her fighting against something invisible, wrestling with her own demons. Just then, I noticed a flicker of movement in her grasp, a tattered piece of paper. This was my sign," she muttered, and my heart raced. But it's too late. What did she mean? Waves of uncertainty crashed over me. She seemed to teeter on the edge of something profound. I could hear my heartbeat thumping in my ears, drowning out the sounds around us. "Please don't give up," I urged, each word a plea. Would she let me in? Would she trust me enough to reveal the weight she carried? Her eyes locked onto mine, searching. I felt time stall. What would happen next? Just then, a loud crash sounded from the back of the station. The world around us shattered momentarily, breaking the spell. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. In the chaotic aftermath of the crash, my instincts kicked in again. I turned towards the noise, my heartbeat quickening. A commotion erupted as a couple of figures stumbled out of a pickup truck, their faces a blend of surprise and frustration. The air thickened with tension as they shouted incoherently at one another. I glanced back at her, desperate to keep her focus on me and away from the brewing storm. "Can we talk somewhere quieter?" The words came out more as a plea than a suggestion. She hesitated, still gripping the crumpled paper with an iron fist. But as another angry shout rang out from the truck, her resolve shattered, if only for a moment. Okay, she whispered, rising slowly and wiping her tears with the back of her hand, smudging her makeup even more. We moved to a corner of the gas station lot, under the shelter of a rusting awning. My brain raced, piecing together what I had witnessed. What happened? I asked gently, wanting to peel back the layers of her despair without breaking her further. She took a deep breath, the moment trembling in the silence between us. I was in a car accident, she started, voice quivering as if each word were a fragile glass ornament. Not this one, my father's old Jeep. I was driving my kids home, and everything went wrong. A lump lodged in my throat. Images of her, with children, danced in my mind. I couldn't imagine how she must feel. Are they? They're fine, she interjected, a quick shake of her head. But it changed everything. My entire life spiraled out of control. I lost my job, my house, and now I'm just stuck. There was a raw pain in her eyes that spoke volumes. I reached for my phone, but she looked at me with a sudden fire igniting in her gaze. Don't, she warned. I can't involve anyone else. It's too much. Before I could respond, the couple from the truck stormed over, their faces twisted with anger. What's going on here? One of them barked, obviously agitated by our conversation. I stood between them and her, instinctively protective. I am just talking, I said, my voice steady but my heart racing. She needs someone to listen. The man sneered, sizing me up. Well, she doesn't need your help. She needs to get her life together. He snapped, taking a threatening step closer. Leave her alone. I spat, adrenaline rushing through me. The situation was escalating too quickly, tensions flaring like dry kindling. Maybe you should mind your business, he shot back. I saw her earlier, cry like a baby. Pathetic. Some people just don't know how to adult. A flood of emotions surged through me. Anger, frustration, and a deep-seated fear that I might lose her before I truly even knew her. I turned back to her, feeling time stretch in that fragile moment. You're not pathetic, I insisted, my voice softer this time. You're human, and everyone stumbles sometimes. The unyielding look in her eyes began to crack, just slightly. You don't understand, she murmured, glancing at the paper in her hand. I had a plan, a way to make it all better. And now, it's just gone. At that moment, I caught sight of the paper, the faint outline of words beginning to emerge. Job fair application. It hit me like a cold wave. When is it? I pressed, feeling a glimmer of hope. Maybe there's still a chance? Her eyes darted, uncertainty flooding her features like a rising tide. Just as she opened her mouth to answer, the couple behind me erupted in laughter, their jeering slicing through the air. The woman with the man leaned around me, a malicious smile on her face. Honestly, just give up already. You're better off. In that moment, the woman beside me sank back against the wall, her strength seeming to falter. I can't do it, she choked. I can't go out there again. Not like this. Desperation tightened my chest. But what if it's your chance? Before she could respond, the man lunged forward, pushing me aside, causing her to stumble. Instinctively, I reached out to steady her, our hands brushing together, a jolt of connection sparking between us. Then came a scream, piercing and raw. My heart stilled. It wasn't from her, it wasn't. Even from the commotion at the truck. It came from behind the gas station. In that moment of horror, she clutched my shoulder, desperation etched across her face. What had we stumbled into? I turned to look, but found myself frozen, breath caught in my throat, heart pounding furiously. More sounds erupted, a child's voice, sobbing, and the unmistakable sound of fabric tearing. A new conflict was rising, intertwining our fates in a web of uncertainty. This time, it felt less about despair and more about survival. What had that scream meant? What was waiting for us just beyond the shadows? In that split second, everything shifted again. The fragile thread we had all been dangling upon had frayed, just a little more. The scream echoed through the stillness, reverberating off the rusted gas pumps and splintered asphalt, morphing my confusion into an urgency I had never felt before. I turned to her, the weight of her hand still resting on my shoulder, the silent plea in her eyes igniting a fierce protective instinct within me. Stay here, I whispered, though I knew the words sounded futile. She shook her head vehemently. "I can't just stand by," she said, her voice steadier than before. "I need to know." In that moment, we were bound together by more than the chaos around us. We were both driven by an instinct to care, to help, even when our own lives felt broken. Hand in hand, we stepped towards the source of the sound, our breath shallow as the revelation settled in my chest. A child was in distress. My mind raced. What kind of situation could lead to a child's sobs here? As we rounded the corner of the gas station, an unsettling sight unfolded before us. A girl, perhaps 7 or 8, sat on the ground, her small body shaking with sobs. Her face was buried in her hands, and nearby was a beaten-up tricycle lying helplessly on its side. "Hey, it's okay, sweetie," I called out, stepping closer, my voice dripping with gentle reassurance. "What happened? Are you hurt?" The girl looked up, tears streaming down her cheeks, her breath hitching in short, desperate gasps. "I can't find my mommy. She said to stay by the bike, but I didn't, and now she's gone." A pang of empathy shot through me like a bullet. I knelt down to her level, trying to bridge the distance with my presence. "Okay, let's find her together," I said, turning slightly to make sure she could see my face was calm. "Can you tell me what she looks like?" The girl nodded, a flicker of hope igniting in her eyes. "She has long brown hair, and she was wearing a red jacket. She was right here." Her panicked description resonated deeply within me, twisting the knife of my own tumultuous memories. I could still recall the suffocating fear of losing my sister when we were kids, that frantic search that had left us both breathless and terrified. "What's her name?" I asked, knowing how important it felt to feel seen in this chaos. "Clara," she replied, her small voice wavering. "Okay, Clara, listen closely," I said, shifting my attention to find her mother. "If you can stay with me and my friend, maybe we can figure out where she went." I looked back at her, silently pleading for her help. The woman beside me had been silently watching, her pain momentarily forgotten as she listened to Clara's plight. "You're so brave, Clara," she said softly, squatting next to me. "We won't leave you until we find her mom, okay?" But just as Clara nodded, relief washing over her, the couple from the truck appeared, their arguing lost to the backdrop of our unfolding drama. The man leaned against the wall, arms crossed, eyes narrowed with irritation. "Look, kid, adults can't even keep track of themselves, let alone you. Just give it up." "Shut up." I shot back, ire flooding my veins. "What the hell is wrong with you? There's a girl here who needs help." "She's just a brat," he snarled, but a spark ignited within met his was no time to engage with him. I swallowed my anger and refocused. "Clara," I began again, "can you tell us where you last saw your mom?" She looked around, her eyes scanning the gas station lot, and then pointed toward the convenience store entrance, glass doors swaying slightly in the breeze. She went inside, but I wanted to ride my bike. "Let's go inside," I suggested, my heart racing as I helped her up. My hand brushed against the woman's as we stood up, and I felt another connection solidify, a shared determination under the shadow of uncertainty. We stepped towards the glass doors, uncertainty looming. Inside, the faint sounds of laughter and chatter faded in comparison to our race against time for a child lost in a world she didn't understand. As we entered the store, a strange sensation washed over me, a nagging feeling that we were being watched, but I shook it off. I turned to the woman, now resolute with a hint of panic in her. Previously tear-streaked eyes. "Can you help us call for her mom?" Just then, a loud crash echoed from the back corner of the store. Gasps erupted from the few patrons, and I felt the weight of impending dread looming over us. Clara's hand squeezed mine tighter, and I caught a glimpse of terror flicker in the woman's eyes. And then, inexplicably, I realized she was staring past me, not at the commotion, but at a figure standing at the store entrance. A man, cloaked in uncertainty, and staring right at us with an intensity that chilled me to my core. "Do you know him?" I asked her, panic seeping into my voice. But she remained silent, her face suddenly pale, as if the life had drained from her skin. Before I could pry further, the sound of another scream cut through the air this time, from Clara's small mouth. I turned, my heart racing as chaos unfolded around us, the veil of fear drawing tighter around us all. The revelation loomed like a specter, winding our fates beyond the unknown, neither of us prepared for what would come next. The atmosphere shifted in an instant, an unseen weight pressing down on us as Clara's scream filled the store. I turned back to her, ready to comfort her, but my heart sank as she stumbled backward. The girl's small form trembled, her wide eyes reflecting not just fear, but an understanding of something darker. "Clara, it's okay. We're here," I rushed to say, but the words felt inadequate against the tide of dread enveloping us. I locked eyes with the woman beside me, who was frozen, her face pale like a ghost. "What's wrong?" I asked, but she merely shook her head, a veil of panic clinging to her features. The chaos behind us erupted into shouts as people rushed toward the aisle, but I was rooted in place, Clara's distress piercing through the noise. "We can't leave her alone," I shouted over the commotion, trying to block out the growing panic in my own chest. With newfound determination, I knelt down and offered my free hand to Clara, still trembling. "Look at me, Clara. You're not alone. We're going to find your mom, I promise," I assured her, my voice firm despite the uncertainty swirling around us. And yet, it was hard to shake a feeling of foreboding as I glanced once more at the entrance. The man, still watching us, seemed unfazed by the panic unfolding beyond him. His eyes were locked on the woman beside me, a deep furrow in his brow. I could sense an invisible connection between them, a tension that was palpable and chilling. "Stay here," I urged Clara once more as I took a step toward the door, drawn by a compulsion I couldn't understand. The woman grasped my arm, her grip tight, begging me to reconsider. "Don't," she whispered, her voice trembling as the undeniable pain in her eyes flashed before me. "It could be dangerous." "Dangerous?" I echoed, still feeling the gravity of this moment. "We've chased danger away for Clara. Can't we do it for everyone else?" Without waiting for an answer, I pushed through the door, determination coursing through me. Outside, the sunlight cast harsh shadows on the ground. The man hadn't moved, still standing as if he were a fixture in the desolation of the gas station. "What do you want?" I challenged him, bracing myself as I took a few steps closer. His expression shifted, surprise melting into something resembling concern. "Get away from her," he called out, the warmth of his voice a stark contrast to his harsh words. My heart raced, caught between wanting to retreat and needing to understand. "Who are you? Do you know Clara's mother?" The words fell heavy, laden with the urgency of the situation, but he didn't answer. Instead, his gaze drifted to the woman still inside the store, and something flickered in his eyes. Recognition? Regret? "Please, just talk to me," I urged, but before he could respond, a commotion erupted back inside. The store was a chorus of chaos again, and Clara emerged behind me, her small voice barely above a whisper. "What's happening?" I turned just in time to see that the aisle had filled with people, heads bobbing in confusion, their expressions a mixture of fear and curiosity. The woman burst through the crowd, eyes wild as she looked for Clara and me. "Clara!" she cried, and the sorrow in her voice wrapped tightly around me like a vice. "Mommy!" Clara rushed forward, the sound of her small feet a desperate echo of hope. My heart soared momentarily as I watched them embrace, but it was abruptly clipped by the realization of everything else at stake. "Who is that man?" the woman asked breathlessly. As confusion clouded her features, I turned back toward the man at the entrance. But he was gone. The space where he had stood now empty, as if he had never been there at all. The palpable tension hung thick in the air, a silent acknowledgement of the unresolved conflict looming between us all. "What has happened?" she whispered, searching my eyes for answers that felt just out of reach. "I don't know," I admitted, trying to navigate the uncertainty that swirled around us like a storm. The sense of connection we had forged fractured at that moment. My heart felt heavy for Clara's, if I had pulled her into a world she was too young to comprehend. And then, echoing through the flickering fluorescent lights, the gas station phone rang. It broke the silence, piercing like a cold wind. I exchanged glances with the woman, wondering if I was ready for what it might bring. The feeling of dread settled again, and I took a step toward the ringing phone, the urgency pulling me in. With trembling hands, I reached for the receiver, the moment stretching thin as I heard Clara and her mother whispering behind me, the love and relief blossoming amidst uncertainty. "Hello," I answered, my heart pounding, unprepared for the truth that lay on the other end. The voice on the line was muffled but hauntingly familiar. "Is this Emma?" it asked, and I gripped the phone tighter, as if it were the only thing holding me steady in this whirlwind of chaos. "Yes," I replied, confusion tightening my throat. I could hear Clara's gentle laughter mingling with her mother's relieved sigh behind me, but it felt like they were worlds away. There was a pause, an agonizing silence that stretched into uncertainty. "You need to listen carefully," the voice continued, urgency threading through each word. "Clara is in danger. You can't stay there much longer." My breath caught in my chest as I turned slightly, glancing back at Clara, her small frame illuminated by the harsh glow of the gas station lights. "What do you mean?" I demanded, panic lacing my voice. "Who are you? How do you know Clara? It's not safe to talk. Meet me at the back of the gas station. It'll explain everything there, but you have to hurry." The line went silent, leaving only the fading echo of my heartbeat in my ears. "Emma?" The woman's voice broke through my fog of shock, her eyes wide with concern. "What's happening?" I wanted to reassure her, to tell her that everything would be fine, but my instinct screamed otherwise. "To think I need to go," I stammered, feeling the weight of every moment bearing down on me. "Go?" she repeated, her voice rising with concern. "You can't just leave us." Clara looked at me, confusion written all over her face. "Where are you going?" she asked, her innocent eyes searching mine for answers. "I don't know, Clara," I said softly, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. "But I promise I'll be right back. Just stay with your mom, okay?" As I turned away, every step toward the back of the gas station felt like I was walking deeper into an unknown abyss. The air was thick with anxiety, and with each step, Clara's laughter faded into silence behind me, replaced by the discordant thrum of my heartbeat. When I reached the back, the shadows danced around me, the dim light barely illuminating the empty lot. I felt exposed, the cold wind wrapping around me like a thin veil, whispering doubts into my ear. "What am I doing? Why am I here?" I murmured to myself, gripping the railing as if it could anchor me against the storm brewing within. And then he emerged familiar, yet different, clouded in shadows. The man from earlier stood before me, his presence more intense against the encroaching darkness. "You came," he said, almost surprised, that same mix of desperation and concern flickering in his gaze. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly as I took a cautious step back. "What do you know about Clara? I don't have time to explain everything, but you need to trust me." His eyes darted around, scanning the empty lot as if expecting something or someone come out of the shadows. "They're not safe here. You have to get her away from this place." "Why?" I pressed, anger rising to the surface, fighting through my fear. "You don't know anything about us. What makes you think you can just because I've seen what can happen?" He interrupted, his voice raised slightly as a tremor of urgency broke through. "And I can't let it happen to her. Not again." The air crackled with tension, and instinctively, I took a step back. "What do you mean, not again?" I found myself whispering. My pulse quickened, the pieces of a frightening puzzle beginning to click together in the recesses of my mind. "I can't give you all the answers right now," he said, his voice lowering to a near whisper as he took a step closer. "But Clarash is special. There are people who want to take that away from her, people who know what she can do." His words felt like a wave crashing against me, knocking the breath from my lungs. "What she can do?" I echoed, searching for the truth hidden within the confusion. "We can't stay here," he urged, his expression softening. "It'll help you, but you have to trust me, Emma. It's the only way to keep her safe." Just as I was about to respond, a sharp noise pierced the night, followed by shouts erupting from the front of the gas station. My heart plummeted as I thought of Clara. No, I whispered, dread crashing over me like a tidal wave. I turned, ready to run back, but the man caught my arm, his grip firm but not unkind. You need to trust me, he said again, urgency flooding his eyes. If we don't leave now, it might be too late. That a split second of hesitation hung in the air between us, the weight of my decision pressing down on me like a beloved weight of uncertainty. Behind the distant cries, Clara's image danced before my mind. Heart pulled in two directions as I stood trapped between the safety of my friend and the threat of an unknown danger. I could run, but would it be far enough? And then, from somewhere within the shadows, I thought I heard another voice, one I did not expect to ever hear again, calling my name in a familiar tone that sent my heart racing. Emma. As I turned slowly, the world around me felt both surreal and terrifyingly real at the same time. The night air that had seemed so calm was now thick with tension, as if every gust of wind held a whisper of danger. The voice I just heard was unmistakable, echoing in my mind like a ghost long thought buried. Emma, it called again, piercing the darkness as if demanding my attention. I squinted into the shadows, half expecting to see a familiar face emerging from the depths of my memories. Yet there remained only a shroud of night. Emma, help me. The voice grew more frantic, sharper this time. Who are you? I shouted back, my voice trembling as I turned fully toward the sound. My heart raced, pinching with dread and longing. The man beside me, still gripping my arm, shifted uneasily, his eyes narrowing. Stay focused, Emma, he cautioned, the urgency in his voice clawing at my resolve. We have to move. But the familiar voice persisted, weaving through my thoughts a melody of nostalgia and fear, beckoning me to look deeper. Please, I need you. I couldn't ignore it. The anchor of familiarity tugged violently at my heart, pulling me closer to the edge of undeniable conflict. No, I can't leave you, I cried out, struggling against the man's grip, my instincts screaming at me to follow that voice. Emma, please listen. He pulled me closer, his grip changing from a hold to a plea. We're running out of time. It's dangerous here. Then who's calling for me? I whispered, the air around us growing heavier with every passing moment. What do you know? The shadows shifted, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I caught a glimpse of Summonia, figure cloaked in black, only just visible against the heavy dimness. My throat tightened, caught between hope and fear. Let her go. The voice intensified, a desperate plea that crumpled something inside of me. You have to choose, Emma. Stop, I shouted, feeling an overwhelming tidal wave of emotions crashing down upon me. I yanked my arm away from the man's grasp, desperation fueling my every action. Clara, I'm coming. I took a hesitant step forward into the encroaching darkness. Emma, the voice cried again, sending shockwaves through me. In that moment, I felt as though the very universe had spoken my name tied not just to myself, but to a history I desperately wished to unravel. The man stepped in front of me, his silhouette blocking my path. You can't go back there. You don't know what they're capable of. I don't care. I gasped, panic and resolve surging through me. I have to see who's calling me. If Clara's in danger, you think it's Clara? He interrupted, his voice rising almost to a shout. You think it's really her? You have to remember, there are those who can manipulate your perception. Don't fall into their trap. Manipulate? The word hung in the air, the implications sending a chill down my spine. The shadows began to close in, whispering secrets I could no longer decipher. Yet I could feel my heart tethered to something, a connection so real that it drowned out every ounce of fear. With resolve ignited, I pushed past him, moving through the thick veil of darkness. The voice continued to echo, drawing me closer, though each step felt like pushing against an unseen force. Emma, it called again, clearer now, mixed with soft crying, a sound that stirred something ancient within my soul. And then I saw her, emerging from the Shadowsa girl with strikingly familiar features drenched in fear. My breath caught in my throat as I recognized the essence of someone I thought was forever vanished from my life. Emma, please. They're coming for me. In that split second, everything froze. The man's warnings turned to mere whispers as the girl reached for me, eyes wide with panic and recognition. The world around me blurred, leaving only her presence pulsing like a beacon in the dark. But before I could take a step toward the girl, I felt a hand grip my shoulder, spinning me around sharply. The man's face was frantic, his eyes a torrent of emotions. Don't you understand? They're not who you think they are. My heart sank, confusion flooded over me like a sudden storm. No, I whispered, reeling between two worlds, a girl I thought I'd lost, and a man who insisted she was a mirage, a trap. Torn between the light of hope and the darkness of fear, I stood frozen, caught in the relentless grasp of uncertainty. Emma, please. The girl pleaded, desperation drenching her words. You have to choose. And then a loud crash erupted from the entrance of the gas station, piercing through the tension like a knife. They're here, the man shouted, pushing me toward the shadows behind him. We need to run. Now. The girl's face was awash in fear, colliding with my desperate resolve as the darkness enveloped us. I hesitated, the weight of what I knew pressing down on my chest. And as I faced both choices between safety in the shadows or the potential danger that lay ahead, I looked into the girl's eyes and felt my heart shatter completely. I was standing at a precipice, and my world felt ready to spiral into chaos. What if the salvation I sought was hidden within the chaos I feared? They're coming for you. The urgent shout echoed in my mind, just as I took the leap into the unknown, feeling the delicate fabric of fate unraveling around me. The adrenaline surged through my veins as I stumbled into the shadows, unsure of what lurked behind me. The girl's voice remained etched in my mind, her pleading eyes a haunting reminder of the connection we shared. Emma, please. It reverberated like a rhythmic beat beneath the chaos around me, urging me to press forward. The man didn't relent, his grip still strong on my arm as he propelled me deeper into the darkness. We can't stay here. They'll find us. Each shout from him was an echo of the fear wrapping around my heart, a visceral reminder that I was not just battling my inner demons, but real and palpable dangers. With every step, the gas station vanished behind us, replaced by an expanse of unfamiliar terrain. The night had plunged into absolute stillness, as if the world was collectively holding its breath, waiting. The stranger's cries still pulsated in my mind, an echo that threatened to overpower my senses. Clara. I whispered her name, feeling its weight as a prayer, a beacon lighting the path ahead and yet drawing me back into uncertainty. Emma. The man's voice broke through my musings, urgent yet somehow tender. I need you to trust me. I know this is hard, but whatever you think you saw out there, it's not real. His eyes searched mine, imploring me to see the truth he insisted was present amid the facade of what I thought I knew. But how could I dismiss the pull of recognition, the bone-deep instinct that Clara was close, that she was in danger? I can't abandon her, I said softly, words laden with the gravity of my conviction. What if the girl was indeed, real, a part of the reality I had long grieved? Emma. The voice drifted back to me again, like a soft wind kissing my skin, luring me with its bittersweet melody. It beckoned me to remember every moment we had shared, every laugh, every tear. I could still feel her warmth, the quietness that lingered during our shared secret. Help me. In that moment, I felt the weight of my choice pressing down heavily. I knew that if I continued down this path, I would either expose myself to the darkness that threatened from all sides, or risk losing the only thread of hope I could grasp. Do you have a plan? I finally asked hesitantly, my eyes still searching the man's face for reassurance. We need to get to safety first, he replied, his gaze hardening as he spoke. Then we can figure out our next move. Before I could respond, the distant sound of footsteps splintered the stillness, rapid and unrelenting. They're close, he muttered, eyes narrowing as he turned towards the source of the sound. We need to move. We dashed into a narrow passage that cut through the trees. The darkness swallowed us whole, but the frigid air combined with my racing heart reminded me I was still alive, still fighting for what I believed was right. My lungs burned, and as we pushed deeper, I could feel the weight of his urgency flowing into me, echoing the desperation of my own heart. Time slipped away as we navigated through the forest, every rustle of leaves and snap of twigs heightening my anxiety. What if Clara was truly in danger? What if I had abandoned her for the sake of a man I barely knew? The man paused, pulling away slightly to peer back the way we'd come. "Listen," he huffed, his voice steady despite his own labored breathing. "Whatever you think you heard can't be trusted. They're able to capitalize on your emotions, to feed off your fears. It's what they do. I know this because I experienced it myself." The vulnerability in his voice cracked through the armor I had constructed around my heart. "What happened to you?" I implored, the slightest hint of empathy threading between us. "It's a long story," he replied, a shadow crossing his features. "But I promise you, I lost everything. I don't want you to end up like me." The air cracked with tension as the realization hit me. "You're not just protecting me, are you? You're trying to protect yourself." The truth rang clear, yet it was laced with a strange sense of camaraderie. His silence echoed loudly, and I felt a sudden pull of connection that fused our traumas, grounding us. In that moment beneath the chaotic sky, just like Clara once had, this man had stepped into my path, shifting the very course of my life. I caught a glimpse of vulnerability in his eyes, an imperfect mirror reflecting my own pain. As we resumed our flight, a sudden rustling came from the thicket beside us, followed by shadows materializing at the edges of the trees. My breath caught, and the darkness morphed into figures, creeping closer with malicious intent. "Go!" he shouted, shoving me ahead as he turned to face the oncoming threat. I hesitated just long enough to catch a glimpse of twisted faces emerging from the blackness of sight, so horrific it sent cold tendrils of dread curling through me. "Run, Emma. You have to find Clara." His voice echoed, jolting me into action, every instinct screaming at me to heed his warning. I turned and ran, the sounds of impending chaos shortly following behind me, the reality of my choices crashing over me like thunder. Crisis closed in like a vice grip, urging me onward into the darkness as the cries of the girl-me friend began to fade. An urgency propelled me further, driven by the hope that maybe I could still unravel both the mystery and truth that haunted me. "Clara!" I shouted, a fierce cry against the night, desperation trailing behind me. "I'm coming." But as I hurtled through the trees, the shadows deepened and a sudden chill chased down my spine, illuminating a terrifying reality. I no longer knew if Clara's voice was genuinely hers or part of the sinister echo that surrounded me. And so, I chased the ghost of a promise through the dark, wonder and dread weaving into an intricate tapestry of choices, uncertain of where they might lead. But even in that fear, a flicker of hope, fragile yet steadfast, whispered that perhaps, somewhere beyond the darkness, both Clara and I might yet reclaim our lives. Just as the shadows behind me erupted into chaos, a possibility bloomed, daring me to venture deeper into what remained unknown. The forest was alive, vibrating with the force of pursuit as I stumbled over roots and rocks, my heart pounding in my ears like a war drum. Each rush of wind through the leaves felt like a warning, urging me to push harder, to keep moving. The shadows, once a haunting reminder of my past, morphed into something more formidable, circling around me. I knew I couldn't look back. Not now. I had to believe Clara was out there, waiting for me. "Clara!" I called again, but my voice seemed swallowed by the night, only to be returned as an echo that mocked my desperation. Surely, I would hear her voice rise above the chaos if she were close. Suddenly, my foot caught on a thick vine obscured in the darkness, sending me tumbling forward. The ground rushed up to meet me with a sickening thud, forcing the wind from my lungs. Stars burst in my vision as I lay there, momentarily dazed. I wrestled against the voice in my mind that told me to just give up, to succumb to the weight of fear pressing down on me. I pushed myself to my knees. The sound of heavy footsteps drew near. The shadows shifted, their shapes providing no comfort as they danced at the edges of my vision, tethered to the inky depths of the trees. Emma. The call was closer now, unmistakable, and it ignited a new fire within me. Clara. I gasped, forcing my body to stand, my legs shaking with the strain. I had to find her, to believe in her fight, just as I fought for my own. Look out. A voice shouted ahead, and before I could comprehend, a figure lunged at me from the underbrush, a grotesque visage painted with malice. Instinct kicked in, and I pivoted just in time to avoid being grasped by claw-like hands. I turned on my heel, racing again, but this time fueled by a deep-rooted urge, the need to protect not just Clara, but myself. Each footfall pounded down the path, but as I dashed forward, a warm presence brushed against my shoulder, a fleeting affection like a friendly embrace. I chanced to glance over my shoulder to find the man from before he was back, his determination palpable even in the fog of crisis. He ran by my side, and for a moment, our fears entwined, as if we were two lost souls navigating through this terror together. "Don't stop, we're almost there," he urged, his voice steady alongside my racing heartbeat. I could sense the urgency behind his words, his conviction almost contagious as we sped deeper into the unknown. But then a sudden realization struck, a raw, painful throb. What if Clara's not there? The thought unraveled from my lips involuntarily, hanging thick in the air. What if I'm chasing shadows? He shot me a glance, vulnerability radiating from him. I know what it's like to lose someone, he admitted, his breath hitching. But we have to keep moving. You're strong, Emma. Don't let the darkness consume you. In that heartbeat, I realized that I wasn't alone. A thread of fate connected us, held aloft by our shared grief. I wanted to lean into that connection, to breathe in the warmth of his words, but fear danced on my shoulders like a specter, unwilling to let go. "Can you promise me?" I started, but another rush of movement from the shadows forced us to keep running, the feeling of impending doom weighty against my chest. The thundering footsteps behind us grew louder, relentless, as if the entire forest conspired against us. I could almost feel the breath of whatever was chasing us like icy fingers inching closer. And then, through the chaotic symphony of fear, an echo called my name, Again, a soft, familiar melody woven between the shouts and the shadows. My heart leaped, the familiar cadence striking a haunting note within me. Clara? An unseen force seized my gut, the belief that Clara might be just beyond our reach, the lines of fate weaving intricately to unite us once more. "This way," I cried out, darting left towards the sound that had momentarily pierced through my despair. "Emma, wait," my companion shouted, struggling to keep pace. But hope surged in me, overriding my caution. I had to follow that voice, for it felt like Hamimi, only anchor in this storm. I hurtled forward, branches whipping against my skin, and before I rounded a corner, I was met with an unimaginable sight, a small clearing illuminated by moonlight, the air pregnant with a tension that hinted at something profound. And there, crouched and trembling, was Clara, ghost from a life I thought I had lost forever. Her hair shimmered in the dim light like a beacon, a hauntingly beautiful reminder that hope mattered, that connection could defy even the darkest shadow. "Emma." She looked up, her eyes wide, reflecting raw fear mixed with an earnest hope that mirrored my own. "You came for me." But before I could respond, a deep, rumbling growl echoed from the shadows, an unholy sound that vibrated through me, clawing at my resolve. The man arrived just behind me, his eyes darting around the clearing, and for a split second, a flicker of calm washed over me until it shattered under the weight of dread. "We're not alone," he breathed. The shadows crept forward, the darkness hungry, their forms shifting into something grotesque. Clara's eyes widened, understanding dawning as the reality of our plight crashed over us like a tidal wave. I stepped back instinctively, pulling Clara behind me as I faced the encroaching terror. The man mirrored that motion, positioning himself protectively at our side. Together, we stood there, a small barrier against the growing void. But as the figures emerged fully into the moonlight, a chilling realization settled over us here, faces twisted and familiar, reminders of lives once cherished and lost. "Emma," Clara whispered, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "What have we awoken?" The shadows advanced, their intent clear and malicious, leaving us no choice but to confront the truth of our tangled fates, each step forward leading us deeper into the heart of darkness, as we clung to the hope that together we might find the light once more. The air in the clearing hung heavy with dread, the oppressive presence of the shadows extracting every ounce of courage I had left. As their familiar faces twisted into grotesque masks of despair, a shiver crawled up my spine. I had come to reclaim Clara, but what if what I found was nothing but a reflection of our pain, a grim reminder that the past could claw its way back into our present? "Stay behind me," I urged, my voice steadier than I felt. I could sense Clara's trembling form cowering against my back, her breathing sharp as the malevolent shadows began to surround us. "Emma," she whispered, "I don't think we can fight them." The man beside me, though we had only shared a fleeting bond born from shared adversity, now felt like a fierce fortress. He stood tall, his fists clenched as if preparing to battle the darkness itself. "We don't have to fight them alone," he replied, meeting my gaze with an intensity that sparked an ember of hope within me. But the shadows only drew nearer, their haunting presence stirring echoes of long-buried memories. I recognized the faces that stared back at me, friends long gone, each silhouette wrapped in sorrow. Despair threatened to engulf me, snaking around my heart. Faces that had once brought laughter were now warped into expressions of anguish and regret, as if they came from my nightmares instead of my days of joy. "Emma," "Clara," a voice cut through the enveloping darkness, sharper than the growls of the shadows, another voice, familiar yet distant, breaking the spell of despair. My heart raced, hope mingling dangerously with confusion. "Don't you recognize me?" The voice belonged to Mia, a friend I had lost years ago, her absence buried underneath my layers of grief. "Mia?" I gasped, baffled by her reappearance. Could it really be her, back among the living, or just another trick of the cruel shadows? She stepped forward, her expression shrouded in a mixture of sorrow and urgency. "You have to understand what happened to us is tied to the darkness. You need to confront it, not run away from it." The shadows recoiled slightly as she made her way toward us, light clinging to her figure as if she were a beacon cutting through the void. Clara gasped, realization dawning. "Mia, is it really you?" "But how? This is not how it was supposed to end," Mia said, her voice trembling. "You both have the power to break this cycle, but it will require confronting what we lost, not just what we fear." The malevolent shadows rumbled, and their twisted faces seemed angrier at her boldness, urging me to step back, to flee with the rising tide of dread. I felt Clara lean closer against me, seeking comfort in my presence, and despite my encroaching fear, her warmth gave me strength. "Mia," I started, my voice quavering, "we can't fight them. They're either just echoes of what we let go." She interrupted, stepping closer still. "But if you want to protect Clara, you must face the truth of your past. Each of these shadows holds a piece of your heart, the love, the loss, the moments where hope flickered." A low growl vibrated the air, as if the shadows themselves were listening, growing restless with our reluctance. I faltered, uncertain if I possessed the strength to face that truth. "What if I can't?" I whispered, staring into MIA's familiar eyes that twinkled with unshed tears. "What if it breaks me?" "Then you find the pieces to rebuild," she insisted, taking another step forward, silhouetted in longing. "You may not see it now, but you're not just fighting for Clara, or even for yourself, you're fighting for every lost soul. For all of us." I clutched Clara's hand tightly, drawing her to my side. She needed me, and, perhaps, In this moment of shared hope, I could find the fortitude Mia believed rested inside me. Around us, the shadows flickered, shadows of our fears and heartaches, writhing in agitation at the light we dared to bring. I don't know how. I admitted helplessly, struggling to keep my composure in the face of their fury. I don't know where to begin. Just remember the joy we shared, Mia urged, her voice softening. The laughter, the love, the dreams. Focus on that. We all deserve to let go of the ties that bind us to sorrow. And then the shadows surged, pressing in, every anguished face merging into a wave of despair that threatened to swallow us whole. My heart raced as the memories clambered forth, lost laughter, memories tainted by regret, the darkness closing around me. But I clutched tighter to Clara's hand, letting her presence anchor me just as MIA's words began to echo inside my mind. As I faced the shadows, I saw beyond their despairing visages. I saw the faces of the people I had loved and lost. And amidst the fearful chaos, each one was not an enemy, but a piece of the tapestry of my life of who I was. That I stepped forward, releasing Clara's hand momentarily to extend my own toward Mia. Give me your strength. We will face this together. Her smile returned, luminous even within the depths of our plight, and she reached for my hand as our fingers intertwined. In that moment, the shadows hesitated, their shapes flickering as our united hope began to radiate warmth into the cold. But before I could fully embrace that warmth, an unexpected howl pierced through the wall of darkness, tearing into the fragile threads of our connection. Beware! It warned, an echo over the forest. The darkness feeds on your doubts. And as the shadows surged, sealing off any avenue of escape, the weight of my choices crashed down. My heart raced with the knowledge that confronting the shadows meant unraveling the truth, the very truth that had kept me tied to past grief. I braced myself against the overwhelming swell of fear and doubt, feeling the ground tremble beneath me and realizing with a jolt that the shadows were reshaping. New faces emerged, racked with anger, broken by despair. Names and memories I had buried deep clawed their way back to the surface, threatening to pull me down into the void with them. "Emma!" Clara screamed, gripping my arm. The urgency in her voice broke through the haze, igniting a desperate flame within me. I turned to face the shadows, to demand they retreat. But their names echoed through me now, boiling in fury, a tempest seeking to overflow. Will you surrender to the past? They hissed. Or will you confront the anguish and finally let it go? The choice hung in the air, heavy and foreboding. The shadows closed in, voices rising together as one, a cacophony of pain demanding recognition. And deep in my heart, a surge of terror clashed against a flicker of determination, a desperate promise to reclaim not just Clara, but the jubilant, unapologetically bright pieces of myself I had long been afraid to uncover. As everything spiraled into chaos, the moments stretched, heartbeats pounding against the impending wave of despair that sought to drown us all. "Emma," Clara's voice broke through once more. "You have to choose. Now." Staring into the abyss, I felt some indefinable force pulling me back, but I steadied myself. If I was to confront the darkness, I would have to face it head-on, with all my vulnerability laid bare. It was time to choose, to stand against the shadows wreathed in voices asking for life. But the question remained, was I strong enough to bear the weight of all that had been lost, of all the choices yet to be made? Together, I breathed, heart racing. We will do this together. And with that, I took the first step toward the swirling darkness, the voices rising to a crescendo, echoing my fear even as a sliver of hope fought to emerge at the edges of despair. The shadows howled, and the pact was sealed. I would confront the truth head-on, but at what cost? I had no idea how I was going to face them. The air thickened with dread as the swirling shadows seemed to pulse like living entities, each face a twisted relic of love and loss, clawing to drag me back into an abyss I had fought so hard to escape. Clara stood behind me, her trembling frame a potent reminder of what I was fighting for. I felt the connection we shared, an unbreakable bond that tethered us to hope, even amidst chaos. Emma, the voice of my past, and yet my present, sliced through the cacophony of pain that surrounded me. What are you afraid of? It was Mia, her spirit flickering brightly even in the face of darkness. Everything, I admitted, my voice barely a whisper as I stared into the core of despair that scarred my memories. What if I can't fight it? What if I fail? You won't. You need to remember who you are, she shouted back with urgency, her form shimmering like a flame amidst the dark. The shadows feed on doubt, but they cannot touch the strength of your heart. Her words incited something fierce within me, and I recalled the laughter that had filled my childhood home, the warmth of loved ones embracing me. I remembered Clara's innocent smile, the joy that seemed to break through the smoke of my despair. If I failed, I wouldn't just let myself down. I'd fail the person who needed me more than anything. I clenched my fists, feeling the warmth build in my chest. Together, I murmured, the corners of my consciousness illuminating. I turned to Clara, who looked up at me with those wide, trusting eyes, her belief in me beckoning me to rise. We can do this together. With a deep breath, I stepped forward, releasing the weight I had been clenching in my chest. You don't control me. You don't decide my fate. I glared at the darkness, each word punctuated by my resolve. Clara moved to my side, standing firm beside me, her small hand clasped tightly in mine. Let go of the pain, Mia urged, her voice joining mine, weaving through the shadows like a song. Let it transform into something beautiful. With that, I felt Ida's spark, a golden thread of light tethered to the depths of my soul. I envisioned every memory of sweet laughter, the shared moments with lost loved ones, the hope that flickered beneath the sorrow. I refused to let them define me. I resisted the urge to shrivel in their presence. A blinding light erupted from within, stemming from the bond with Clara, from the love that had always existed amongst the shadows. The figures recoiled, their distorted faces twisting in agony as the light erupted around us. Face the joy, I cried out, allowing the memories of laughter and love to fill every crevice of my being, igniting every fragile thread of hope. The shadows shrieked, their chorus turning into a wretched wail, beginnings of truth escaping their malleable forms. I accept you, but I refuse to let you rule my life. Together, Clara echoed, her voice ringing with a fierce determination, a resonance of our shared past that had given us strength. So we pressed on, hand in hand, the pulsing light expanding, filling the clearing with warmth. As our hopes danced around us, the shadows plunged back, refusing to grapple with the joy that grew stronger, more defiant with every heartbeat. Emma, Mia shouted, a burst of brightness surrounding her figure as she pushed through the dark faces. Let go of the past. It no longer defines you. As I fought against the despair that clung to me, I could feel the shadows unraveling beneath the warmth of our courage. With every ounce of my spirit, I surrendered my fears to the light, letting it wrap around me, a warm embrace replacing the chill that had once pervaded my soul. And then, right before my eyes, I saw the figures writhing in pain, their faces changing again, reflecting not just grief, but connections, lives unlived. A kaleidoscope of memories spun before me, each shadow presenting a glimpse of failure and regret intertwined with love and laughter. Let them go. The man's voice floated back to me, a voice that had joined my fight. You're not meant to carry their burdens, only your own path. Allow the past to rest. Only then can you truly live. The moment crystallized. Every emotion surged within me. I release you, I cried, my voice breaking free, piercing the tumult. I understood. The shadows were part of me, yes, but they were no longer going to dictate my joy. I would cherish the memories, but I wouldn't let their echoes drag me down. The shadows began to dissipate, swirling away like ash caught in the wind, cries of rage replaced with quiet acceptance. I felt Clara squeeze my hand tighter as the void around us faded away. The darkness retreated like an ebbing tide, losing its hold on me, as the last vestiges of shadow evaporated. Sunlight broke through the heavy mist that had clung to the clearing. A warmth, gentle and refreshing, enveloped us, filling my lungs with the promise of a new beginning. "Is it over?" Clara asked, her innocent eyes glistening with hope. "Yes," I whispered, looking down at her, filled with affection. Together, we faced the darkness, and we've overcome it. And then, a familiar face emerged, a woman with warm eyes, standing at the edge of the clearing. "Emma," she called out, her smile radiant and sincere. "You did it, Mia," I gasped, recognizing her light, feeling the hollows of longing begging to break free. My heart surged with something profound, something whole. She stepped closer, the warmth of her presence a long-awaited embrace. "It's time to rest. You've fought valiantly," she said softly, her gaze twinkling. "But your journey is just beginning. Where do we go now?" I asked, everything shifting inside, precious memories fighting against bittersweet uncertainty. "To life," she exclaimed, her voice igniting hope where darkness had threatened to consume it. "You already possess everything you need to pave the way forward. Love, memories, your connection to each other. Live through it. Embrace it. Let it guide you." As the sun bathed us in golden light, I turned to Clara, my heart swelling. We stood among the remnants of our battle, transformed by the aftermath into something stronger, something more remarkable than the shadows that once haunted us. Hand in hand, together we set forth into the light, ready to embrace every fragment of life that lay ahead. In the end, I learned that not every shadow was meant to bind me, but that love and hope remained the unyielding foundation underneath my feet. Sometimes, in confronting the darkest parts of ourselves, we find the light shining through. Together, we would learn that every ending could yield a beginning just waiting to be embraced. As we walked into the new dawn, I turned to Clara and whispered the words that felt like a benediction. "We're free, my love. We're finally free."